Elise had always been the center of attention in her small town, a beauty admired and envied by all. From a young age, she knew the power of her looks. With her flawless skin, radiant smile, and a confident stride, she could capture the gaze of anyone who crossed her path. Young men vied for her attention, while the other girls in town were either intimidated or despised her. Elise's vanity grew with each compliment, and she took great pleasure in belittling others, especially those who dared to stand in her shadow. Her arrogance made her many enemies, but she didn't care. To her, beauty was all that mattered, and she believed that her looks alone would bring her everything she desired. Eventually, Elise settled on marrying Jake, a wealthy young businessman who was smitten with her. Their whirlwind romance swept the town into a frenzy of gossip, and within 6 months they were married. Elise reveled in her new life of luxury, convinced that her beauty alone had secured her a place among the town's elite. She chose to be a stay-at-home wife, finding no need to work or contribute beyond being Jake's stunning trophy. Jake adored her and indulged her every whim, happy to provide the comfortable life she wanted. 4 years into their marriage, Elise gave birth to their daughter, Sophia. While Jake was overjoyed to have a child, Elise's reaction was far different. Instead of maternal pride, she felt a deepening sense of jealousy. Sophia's beauty, though still in its infancy, was enough to spark resentment in Elise's heart. As the months turned into years, Elise's jealousy grew stronger. Everywhere they went, people fawned over baby Sophia, praising her beauty and grace. Elise couldn't stand it. She began neglecting Sophia, pushing her further into the background of her life. Jake, blind to his wife's internal turmoil, continued to shower their daughter with love, which only infuriated Elise more. When she could no longer handle Sophia's presence, she demanded help, and Jake, unknowingly enabling her detachment, hired a nanny to assist. Despite the outside help, Elise's resentment turned to cruelty. 4 years later, Jake came home early one day to witness Elise violently beating their daughter with a stick. Horrified, he intervened, only to collapse moments later from an unexpected heart attack. In the panic, Elise covered up the truth of Jake's final moments and allowed life to continue as if nothing had happened. But as Jake's fortune dwindled, so did Elise's grip on her once perfect life, and she moved with Sophia to a modest bungalow. Over time, Elise's bitterness toward her daughter became unbearable. She isolated Sophia, convinced the girl was trying to outshine her, and kept her confined with no friends or freedom. Sophia, now 18, dreamed of escape, longing for a life beyond her mother's toxic grasp. The morning sun peeked through the tattered curtains, casting a sickly glow over the cramped living room. Elise, a woman in her late 40s, sat hunched on the worn sofa, her eyes fixed on the closed bedroom door. Her fingers drummed anxiously on the armrest as she waited for her daughter, Sophia, to emerge. Elise's once vibrant features had faded, the weight of her jealousy etching deep lines across her forehead. She had always been a beautiful woman, but time had not been kind. Each laugh line, each gray hair was a painful reminder of her daughter's youthful glow. The sound of a door creaking open pierced the heavy silence, and Elise straightened her posture, her lips curling into a forced smile. Sophia, a radiant 18-year-old, stepped into the living room, her long chestnut hair cascading over her shoulders. "Good morning, Mother," Sophia said, her voice laced with hesitation. She knew all too well the volatile moods that often consumed her mother. Elise's eyes narrowed as she studied her daughter's face, searching for any flaw that could diminish her beauty. "Good morning, darling," she replied, her tone dripping with false sweetness. "Did you sleep well?" Sophia nodded, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "Yes, Mother, I'm just about to make breakfast. Would you like anything in particular?" Elise waved her hand dismissively. No, that's quite all right. I'll just have my usual tea." Her gaze never left Sophia's face, and the girl could feel the weight of her mother's scrutiny. As Sophia moved towards the kitchen, Elise's eyes followed her every step, cataloging each graceful movement, each delicate feature. The mother's heart sank with a familiar pang of envy. How could her own daughter be so flawless, so effortlessly beautiful? Elise remembered a time when she had been the center of attention, when men would turn their heads as she walked by. But now, in the shadow of her daughter's radiance, she felt invisible, forgotten. The thought of Sophia surpassing her in beauty was a bitter pill to swallow. Sophia busied herself in the kitchen, her mind racing with the familiar worries that had become a constant companion. She knew her mother's moods all too well, the way a single compliment or admiring glance could send her spiraling into a fit of jealousy. The sound of a teacup being slammed down on the coffee table startled Sophia, and she rushed back to the living room, her heart pounding. Elise's eyes were wild, her lips curled into a snarl. "You think you're so special, don't you?" Elise hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "Strutting around, flaunting your beauty for all to see. Well, let me tell you something, Sophia. You're nothing but a spoiled, selfish girl." Sophia's eyes widened, and she took a step back, her hands trembling. "Mother, I don't understand. What have I done?" Elise's nostrils flared, and she rose from the sofa, her movements sharp and jerky. "What have you done?" she spat. "You've taken everything from me. That's what you've done. The attention, the admiration, it should all be mine." Sophia felt her heart sink as she realized the source of her mother's rage. "Mother, I never meant to." Silence. Elise's hand shot out, and her fingers wrapped around Sophia's delicate wrist, yanking her forward. "You think you're better than me, don't you? Well, let's see how beautiful you are with a few scars to mar that perfect face of yours." Sophia's eyes widened in horror as her mother's grip tightened, and she knew in that moment that her mother's jealousy had pushed her over the edge. She opened her mouth to scream, but the sound was drowned out by the shattering of glass as Elise's hand connected with Sophia's cheek, leaving a deep, jagged gash. Sophia crumpled the floor, her hands clutching her face as blood seeped through her fingers. The world around her faded, and all she could hear was her mother's ragged breathing and the sound of her own muffled sobs. In that moment, the seed of Elise's jealousy had blossomed into a twisted, thorny vine, forever scarring the relationship between mother and daughter. Sophia's heart raced as she hurried down the dimly lit street, clutching the small duffel bag that held the remnants of her former life. The weight of her mother's cruel words and the searing pain from the fresh scar on her cheek fueled her desperate need to escape. She had to get away from this suffocating existence, where every moment was tainted by Elise's relentless jealousy and abuse. As Sophia navigated the unfamiliar city, she felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The unknown that lay ahead was daunting, but the prospect of finally being free from her mother's toxic grip filled her with a glimmer of hope. She had spent years internalizing Elise's hateful remarks, believing that she was unworthy, unlovable. But now, with each step she took, Sophia felt a newfound determination to forge her own path. Finding temporary refuge in a small, dingy motel, Sophia collapsed onto the bed, her body trembling from the adrenaline. She had never been on her own before, and the reality of her situation dawned on her. How would she support herself? Where would she go? Tears streamed down her face as she contemplated the uncertain future that lay ahead. In the days that followed, Sophia navigated the challenges of living independently. She scoured the city for odd jobs, taking on tasks like waitressing and dog walking to make ends meet. The work was grueling, and the long hours left her exhausted, but she refused to give up. Each paycheck, no matter how small, represented a step towards her independence. As Sophia settled into her new routine, she began to discover the joys of self-discovery. She relished the freedom to make her own choices, to dress as she pleased, and to explore the world without the constant scrutiny of her mother's critical gaze. Slowly, the scars on her face began to heal, both physically and emotionally. One day, while walking through the bustling city streets, Sophia stumbled upon a flyer for a local community college. Intrigued, she inquired about the application process and was thrilled to learn that she could enroll. This opportunity represented a chance to build a future for herself, to acquire the knowledge and skills that would empower her to forge her own path. As Sophia navigated the challenges of college life, she found solace in the company of her newfound friends. They listened to her stories, offered support, and encouraged her to embrace her unique beauty. For the first time in her life, Sophia began to see herself as more than just her mother's jealous reflection. Determined to reclaim her appearance, Sophia saved up her meager earnings and booked an appointment with a renowned plastic surgeon. The procedure was daunting, but Sophia steeled herself, knowing that this was a crucial step in her journey of self-acceptance. When the bandages were finally removed, Sophia gazed into the mirror, scarcely recognizing the radiant woman staring back at her. The scar that had once been a constant reminder of her mother's cruelty had been transformed into a symbol of her resilience. In the months that followed, Sophia's confidence blossomed. She excelled in her studies, forging her own identity and carving out a future that was untainted by the shadows of her past. As she walked the streets, head held high, she felt a sense of pride and purpose that had been so long denied to her. The daughter who had once cowered under her mother's scrutiny had emerged as a woman unafraid to claim her own beauty and worth. The final chapter of Sophia's transformation came when she received a letter of acceptance to a prestigious university, a testament to her hard work and determination. Sophia's life had blossomed in the years since her escape from her mother's toxic grip. The scars on her face, both physical and emotional, had become a distant memory as she forged a path of her own, determined to leave the shadows of her past behind. Enrolling in a prestigious university, Sophia immersed herself in her studies, driven by a fierce determination to prove her worth. The once timid girl had transformed into a confident young woman, her inner strength radiating through every interaction. She excelled academically, earning the admiration of her professors and peers alike. As Sophia navigated the unfamiliar terrain of college life, she found solace in the company of like-minded individuals who saw her for who she truly was, not just the daughter of a jealous mother. These newfound friends became her support system, offering a safe haven where she could be herself without the burden of her family's dysfunction. One particular friendship blossomed into something more. Sophia met a kind-hearted young man named Ethan, who saw beyond the scars on her face and embraced her for her resilience and intelligence. Their relationship grew steadily, and Sophia found herself opening up in ways she never thought possible. With Ethan by her side, she began to heal, learning to love herself and embrace the beauty that had once been a source of so much pain. Sophia's academic prowess did not go unnoticed. She excelled in her classes, consistently earning top grades and impressing her professors. Her passion for her studies, coupled with her unwavering determination, caught the attention of a prestigious law firm, which offered her an internship upon graduation. Eager to prove herself, Sophia threw herself into the internship, immersing herself in the fast-paced world of law. Her keen intellect and meticulous attention to detail quickly made her an indispensable asset to the firm. Colleagues marveled at her ability to navigate complex legal issues with ease, and her superiors took note of her exceptional work ethic. As Sophia's career began to soar, she found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this point. The scars on her face, once a source of shame and insecurity, had become a testament to her resilience. She had transformed from a timid, self-doubting girl into a confident and accomplished woman, and she took immense pride in her accomplishments. She had built a life in the city where she had found solace and support, and the thought of leaving it all behind weighed heavily on her. After much deliberation, Sophia decided to accept the offer. This new chapter in her life would not only advance her career, but also provide her with the financial stability she had once craved. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sophia bid farewell to her friends and mentors, promising to stay in touch as she embarked on this exciting new journey. As Sophia packed up her belongings and prepared to leave, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. The scars that had once defined her were now a symbol of her strength and resilience. She had risen from the ashes of her mother's jealousy, emerging as a powerful and successful woman, unafraid to embrace her own beauty and worth. With a deep breath, Sophia stepped out into the world, ready to conquer new challenges and continue her transformation. The future may have been uncertain, but one thing was clear. Sophia was no longer the scared and broken girl her mother had once known. 15 years had passed since Sophia's dramatic departure from her childhood home, leaving behind the toxic grip of her mother's jealousy. In the intervening years, she had blossomed into a poised and accomplished woman, her once marred face now bearing no visible trace of the violence that had once scarred it. She made the decision to return home, ready to confront the mother who had once sought to destroy her. This reunion, Sophia knew, would be the ultimate test of her strength and the culmination of her hard-won journey towards self-acceptance and empowerment. As Sophia's sleek, black sedan pulled up to the modest bungalow where she had grown up, memories of her tumultuous past flooded her mind. The once well-tended garden had become overgrown, the paint on the front door chipped and faded. A palpable sense of melancholy hung in the air, a stark contrast to the vibrant life Sophia had built for herself. Steeling her nerves, Sophia stepped out of the car, her designer heels clicking against the cracked pavement. She paused for a moment, taking in the familiar surroundings that had once been the source of so much pain and anguish. A deep breath, and she made her way to the front door, her heart pounding in her chest. The doorbell echoed through the house, and Sophia waited, her palms sweating. After a long moment, the door creaked open, revealing a frail, haggard-looking woman, her mother, Elise. Time had not been kind to her. The once striking features that had fueled her jealousy had given way to the ravages of age and regret. Elise's eyes widened in shock as she took in the woman standing before her. "Sophia?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Is that really you?" Sophia nodded, her expression unreadable. "Hello, Mother." Elise's trembling hands reached out, as if to touch her daughter's face, to confirm that this was not some cruel illusion. "My God, you're so beautiful," she breathed, her voice laced with a mixture of awe and anguish. Sophia stepped back, unwilling to allow her mother's touch. "I'm not the same girl you knew all those years ago," she said, her tone measured and detached. Elise's eyes filled with tears as the weight of her past actions settled upon her. "I know," she whispered, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "I've thought about you every day, Sophia. I've lived with the regret of what I did to you." Sophia regarded her mother with a cool, impassive gaze. "Have you?" she asked, her voice dripping with skepticism. "Because the last time I saw you, you were consumed by your own jealousy, willing to destroy me to feed your vanity." Elise flinched, the truth of Sophia's words cutting her to the core. "I was a different person back then," she pleaded, her eyes begging for understanding. "I was so lost. I let my insecurities consume me, and I took it out on you. I can never undo the pain I caused you, but I am so sorry." Sophia's expression remained unmoving, her eyes reflecting the years of anguish she had endured. "Sorry doesn't change the fact that you scarred me, both physically and emotionally," she said, her voice unwavering. "It doesn't erase the years of torment I suffered at your hands." Elise's shoulders slumped, her head bowed in shame. "I know," she whispered, the weight of her actions finally crushing her. "I know I can never make amends for what I've done. I've lived with that knowledge every day." Sophia took a step forward, her eyes boring into her mother's. "Then you understand why I can't forgive you," she said, her words cutting through the air like a knife. "You took away my childhood, my self-worth, my very identity. I had to rebuild myself from the ashes of your cruelty." Elise's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Sophia, please," she begged, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Sophia's expression remained unwavering. "Sorry isn't enough, Mother," she said, her voice laced with a finality that left no room for argument. "I'm not the same girl you once knew. I'm stronger now, more resilient, and I've learned to love myself, despite the scars you left behind. Mother, after today, I will move on with my life without any regrets, and I will forget that you exist. I hope you live the rest of your life alone, filled with regret for losing your only child because of your cruelty," Sophia said, taking a deep breath. She looked her mother directly in the eyes and added, "I made it, even though you did everything in your power to destroy me." With that, Sophia turned and walked away, leaving her mother standing in the doorway, consumed by the weight of her own regret. Elise watched, helpless, as the daughter she had once despised disappeared from her life forever. As Sophia drove away, she felt a sense of closure, a weight lifted from her shoulders. The scars may never fully heal, but she had reclaimed her power, her identity, and her self-worth. She was no longer defined by her mother's jealousy, but by the strength and resilience she had forged in the face of adversity. The road ahead was uncertain, but Sophia knew that she was finally free. Free from the shadows of the past, free to embrace the future on her own terms. And as she glanced in the rearview mirror, she caught a glimpse of the woman she had become. Strong, confident, and and unbreakable. Sophia's journey is a powerful reminder that not all wounds can be healed, and not everyone you hurt will forgive you. As much as we may want to make amends for past mistakes, some scars run too deep to be erased by apologies alone. Sophia's mother, Elise, learned this painful truth when she tried to seek forgiveness for the years of cruelty and jealousy she inflicted on her daughter. Despite her regret, Elise came to understand that certain actions leave irreversible damage, and the people we hurt may move on without us in their lives. For Sophia, this moment was about reclaiming her power. She realized that forgiveness is not always necessary for closure. Sometimes the best form of healing comes from walking away, understanding that not all relationships are meant to be mended. Sophia's refusal to forgive wasn't out of bitterness, but out of a recognition that her well-being could not hinge on her mother's remorse. She had rebuilt herself, found her strength, and became the woman she was meant to be, despite the pain inflicted on her. In life, the lesson here is twofold. We must be mindful of the harm we cause others, as some wounds may never heal, and we must also recognize that our own healing doesn't always require forgiveness or reconciliation. Sometimes moving forward means letting go of the past entirely, even when apologies are offered. Subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories, and see you in the next video.